One cloudy spring day in 2012, work was in full swing on the outskirts of London. The construction site in the Canary Wharf area buzzed with the sounds of machinery and workers' voices. A team of builders was busy constructing a new office building that was set to become another highlight of the capital's business district. The morning was cool, and the workers, wrapped up in warm jackets, got to their tasks. Among them was Alex, a young guy who had recently joined the crew. He worked hard to complete the foreman's assignments, eager to prove himself. Nearby, John, an experienced bricklayer who knew all the tricks of the trade, was working. His rough hands skillfully laid bricks, creating the even wall of the future building. Not far away, Mike was operating an excavator, digging a trench for the foundation. The work was progressing steadily when suddenly, something unusual happened. As Alex descended into the trench to check the groundwater level, he heard a strange sound. At first, he thought he was imagining things, but the sound repeated. The young worker stopped and listened closely. A faint whimpering was coming from deep in the trench. Alex decided to find the source of the sound and cautiously started descending down the dirt slope. The lower he went, the clearer the sound became. Finally, Alex saw a small hole in the trench wall from where the cries were coming. He called for his colleagues, and soon several workers gathered around the discovery. John, being the most experienced, took charge of the situation. He asked for a flashlight to get a better look at what was inside the hole. When the light hit the source of the sound, the workers saw a small creature covered in thick mud. Their first thought was that it was a puppy that had somehow ended up on the construction site. The animal looked scared and exhausted. Its fur was matted with dirt, and its eyes were filled with fear. The builders couldn't leave the helpless creature in distress. They decided to rescue it immediately, even though it meant temporarily halting the work. The foreman, upon hearing the situation, was surprised but approved the workers' decision. Alex volunteered to go into the hole and retrieve the puppy. He carefully approached, trying not to frighten it any further. The young man tried to soothe the trembling creature, slowly extending his hands. The puppy initially recoiled, but then, seemingly realizing they were there to help, allowed Alex to pick it up. Gently, Alex lifted the muddy bundle and began climbing back up, where his colleagues were waiting. Once Alex emerged from the trench, everyone crowded around to get a look at the rescued puppy. It was so covered in mud that it was impossible to tell its breed. Its fur was matted into hard clumps, and its tiny body shivered from fear and cold. John suggested taking the little one to the nearest veterinary clinic, and everyone agreed it was the best solution. Mike offered to use his car to transport the frightened, filthy puppy. While Mike prepared the car, the other workers tried to clean the animal from the mud. They brought water and old towels, carefully wiping off the hardened layer. However, the dirt was so embedded in its fur that it was impossible to remove without special tools. Finally, everything was ready for departure. Alex gladly agreed to accompany the poor animal to the clinic. He gently wrapped the shivering puppy in a clean towel and sat in the passenger seat of Mike's car. On the way to the clinic, Alex tried to calm the puppy, talking softly to it and gently stroking the little one. Slowly, the shaking subsided and the rescued animal seemed to relax a bit. Mike drove carefully, avoiding sudden movements. He chose a route with fewer traffic lights to get to the clinic faster. Every now and then he glanced at his passengers, making sure everything was okay. 20 minutes later, they arrived at the veterinary clinic. It was a small but modern building with a bright sign. Alex and Mike hurried inside, carrying the towel-wrapped puppy. At the reception, they were met by a young female receptionist. Seeing the animal's condition, she immediately called the on-duty vet. Within minutes, Dr. Brown, an experienced specialist with kind eyes, arrived. He quickly assessed the situation and invited the builders into the examination room. There, he carefully unwrapped the towel and began examining the animal. His skilled hands gently felt the tiny body, checking for injuries. Fortunately, no serious injuries were found. However, the doctor noted that the animal was severely emaciated and dehydrated. He confirmed it was indeed a puppy, judging by its size and body shape, and suggested starting the cleaning and treatment immediately. Alex and Mike agreed to leave the little one in the clinic's care. They left their contact information and promised to return later to check on its condition. Dr. Brown assured them that he would do everything possible to save the little patient. The builders returned to the construction site, where their colleagues were eagerly waiting. They recounted their visit to the clinic and how the animal was left in the care of the vets. Everyone was glad they had been able to help the little one so quickly. Work on the site resumed, but the workers' thoughts kept drifting back to the rescued puppy. They discussed what breed it could be and how the animal had ended up in the trench. Theories ranged from a lost pet to a stray dog that had wandered onto the site by accident. Meanwhile, in the vet clinic, the painstaking work of cleaning and treating the little patient began. Dr. Brown and his assistants carefully washed away the dried mud using special shampoos and warm water. The cleaning process took nearly an hour. Layer by layer, the dirt came off, revealing the animal's fur. To the doctor's surprise, under the crust of mud was not a puppy, as everyone had initially thought, but a real baby fox. Its red fur gradually became more visible. The fox turned out to be very young, about 4 months old. It was severely malnourished and frightened, but slowly began to trust the caring hands of the vets. After the bath, the little fox was gently dried with soft towels and placed in a warm enclosure. Dr. Brown conducted a full examination, taking the necessary tests and x-rays. The results showed that despite the malnutrition and dehydration, the fox had not sustained any serious injuries. He was prescribed a course of vitamins and a special diet to regain his strength. At the clinic, the fox was given the name Jasper, which seemed very fitting for such an unusual patient. The clinic staff took turns watching over his enclosure, monitoring the little patient's condition, and providing everything he needed. News of the unusual patient quickly spread throughout the clinic. Many employees came to see the little fox, marveling at his incredible rescue. Jasper's story touched the hearts of everyone who heard it. The next day, Alex and Mike, as promised, returned to the clinic to check on the rescued animal. They were amazed to learn that they had actually saved not a puppy but a baby fox. Dr. Brown told them about the care he had provided and showed them pictures of Jasper's transformation. The builders were happy to know the fox was doing well. They thanked the clinic staff for their care and asked to be kept informed of Jasper's progress. Alex even offered to help with the medical costs if needed. In the following days, Jasper steadily gained strength. His appetite improved, and he started showing more interest in the world around him. The vets noted that the fox was recovering quickly. Meanwhile, Jasper's rescue story attracted the attention of the local media. Reporters contacted the clinic and the construction company to learn more about the incredible rescue. Soon, an article about the brave builders and the miraculous rescue of the fox, whom everyone initially thought was a puppy, appeared in the local newspaper. The publication sparked a lot of interest from readers. Many people called the clinic, asking about Jasper's condition and offering their help. Some even expressed a desire to adopt the fox once he was fully recovered. However, Dr. Brown and his team were firmly convinced that the best place for Jasper was the wild. They began developing a plan for his rehabilitation and eventual release back into his natural habitat. To this end, the clinic contacted a local wildlife rehabilitation center. The center's specialists agreed to take Jasper after his treatment at the clinic and prepare him for life in the wild. The days in the clinic flew by quickly. Jasper increasingly resembled a healthy, active fox. He curiously explored his enclosure, played with toys brought by the staff, and ate the specially prepared food with great appetite. The rehabilitation center was located in a picturesque area outside the city, surrounded by forests and fields. Jasper was to spend several months there, preparing for a life on his own in the wild. Luckily, the fox quickly adapted to his new surroundings and showed excellent progress in his training. Jasper learned how to find food, avoid dangers, and interact with other animals. His natural instincts, suppressed during his time in the urban environment, were now fully awakening. The day finally came when the center's specialists decided that Jasper was ready to return to the wild. They chose a suitable spot in the forest, far from human dwellings, but rich in natural food sources for the young fox. At first, Jasper hesitated, cautiously observing the forest and not wanting to go in. However, his natural instincts soon kicked in. Jasper became alert, hearing some sound in the forest. His ears perked up and his body tensed. A moment later, he dashed off into the thicket, his red tail flickering between the trees. Watching Jasper disappear into the woods, Alex smiled widely, recalling how they had mistaken him for a puppy that day at the construction site. This little creature, who had overcome so many trials, was now returning to his true home, the wild, where he belonged.